Morning guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with the Pathfinder School. And what I thought we'd do today is look at a couple ways that we can lock material or hold material in a camp environment other than the stump vise that we've talked about in other videos. And I've got this area right here where we did our brain tanning. And remember I told you after we cut that off we were going to use that later for something else, where we had the point here we were working our hide over the stake. And now we're going to use this same setup right here for a vise. So I've taken this side where we had the point and I've cut that off flat, and I've split it with my axe by putting my axe on top of it and splitting it down with my maul. And I've split it down about this far. I've left this alone for right now, but we're going to shave this down as well. So we're just going to come in here and take this down to the bark, or down to the, take the bark off of this, I should say, just like this. And the reason we're doing that is we just want a smooth surface right there for later. So we've got that smoothed out, we've got this split. Now we really have two different ways we can hold material here, and I'm going to show you how that works right now. The first one is in this split. So let's say that we want to work with making a handle for something like a froe. And there were really 5 main tools that were used in woodcrafting from early on. Complicated saws like small cross-cutting saws and coping saws and things like that that cut wood into shape were more available to artisans in bigger cities and bigger towns than they would have been to people in rural areas. People in rural areas were very limited in the tools that they had, and the only saw they probably would have had, if they had a saw at all, would have been some type of bucking saw. Beyond that, they would have used, for woodworking or finer crafting, they would have used a froe to split out shakes and planks and things of that nature. They would have used a hewing hatchet or carving hatchet, like this one. And then a draw knife, similar to this, a small carving knife, and some type of maul for pounding with. And that would have been the limitation of the tools that they would have used to do the major amount of their woodworking. So we've split this down now, and if we're going to take, let's say, a piece of oak or hickory like this one, and we want to work this piece to a handle for our froe. We could put this thing on a stump and we could work it like that. But if we really want to shape this thing down nice, or we're making an axe handle or something like that, then we're going to want to use a draw knife, because it's going to take a lot less energy. It's going to be safer and much more controlled. And we can use a vise similar to this one for that very, very easily. Okay, so to put this in here and use this as a vise, the first thing we want to do is we want to tie the bottom of it off so it doesn't split out. So I'm just going to make a simple knot in here that will be self-tightening, like a jam knot. Put that around the outside of this and bring it down about to where I want to tighten it down at, just like that. Just make a couple of wraps on there, and then I will go ahead and make a clove hitch type knot on there to hold it fast, so that I can get it undone when I want to and recover the cordage, but it's going to tighten down very, very well. Just like that. Now, I'm going to open this wedge up by pounding, or open this vise by pounding another wedge into it, and get my work in there where I want to hold it. Just like that. And I can pound that down in there now as far as it'll go, because I don't have to worry about this splitting out anymore because I've got it tied off. Okay, once we get our work hammered down into our V good, we know it's not going to move too much. We want to tighten up this V. So we're just going to take another piece of cordage and put a joining type knot in there that makes that loop a little bit bigger, but not too much bigger. We can adjust that a little bit if we want to, because we don't want too much slack in there. We want just enough slack in there to where we can get a tensioning device in there, no more than that. And when I mean a tensioning device, what I'm talking about here is a windlass. So we'll put a windlass in there like this, and then we will turn it to tighten it down like this. And when we get that tight, we'll just lock that in with this other piece of rope so that it can't come undone by putting a 1/2 hitch in it, just like that. And that should hold us pretty good. Now we can work with this. Now if we're going to be working with a draw knife on this piece, there's a couple things we can do. If we're afraid it's going to move up and down on us because it's really long, we can put a V-stick underneath it right here and just kind of jam it in there to hold it up, and that'll work. But I think we've got it tight enough in this case that we're not going to need it. The other thing that we can do is we can just lean our chest on the work just like this as we're working the piece as well. And this will allow us to work a draw knife or a machete or whatever the case may be with 2 hands and still hold this work steady enough to be able to do some fine carving on it. You can see when I push down on it, it moved a little bit. Don't let that worry you too much, because you can always put that V-stake underneath there if you want to, that V-stick. As you're working out here on the very end, you can always put that stick in underneath. But this type vise will allow you to work on things like handles, bows, and things of that nature with both hands. If you were using a rasp that you want to use with both hands, or a draw knife, or like I said, a machete you've got turned sideways, anything like that, this type of vise will hold that for you. Okay, so let's talk about a larger piece of lumber than we can put in this split. Now we've got this width here to work with, and we're going to use what's called a Japanese carpenter's vise. And what they would do is they would put some kind of a flat in here. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, this is the top off of this piece that I cut off that we used for breaking that hide, and I'm just going to put it right down inside here like this, and pound it in. Just like that. And then I'll take a larger log that I'd want to work. Let's say in this case this piece of pine. I lay it in there, and you can see this area that I cut out right here of the tree, and that is for putting a wedge in. And I put a wedge in right there, and then we pound it in from the top. Just like this. And now we've got this piece held steady and tight. So now we have a way to put a bigger, larger diameter log in here. If we were making some type of a saw cut, or if we were working with a chisel, or possibly working with a draw knife or something on the edge here, anything that we were working on, we could hold the work that way. And again, it gives us both hands free, and the piece is not going to move too much. Again, you could put a fork stick underneath there if you needed to, if you had a really long piece, whatever the case may be. But this type vise will give you the versatility to be able to use larger pieces in there as well, especially if you find something like I did here, where you've got a sapling coming off of a mother tree and it's already got a natural fork in it, because this will work in any forked area. And I just cut this off to use for a smaller material vise, and this is my larger material vise. Okay guys, well, I'm Dave Canterbury with the Pathfinder School, and I appreciate you joining me out here today for just a little quick tip or trick on a couple different ways that you can vise material to hold it fast so you can work on it with both hands and have both hands free. I appreciate your views and your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our business, for our family, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks guys.